Is it too late to start investing in real estate in your 40s? Guys, there's a famous quote that talks about the best time to plant a tree. And they say the best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago, and the second best time to plant a tree is today. I'm sure it's a Chinese proverb, and I probably butchered it, but you get the idea. It's never too late to start investing in real estate. And there's a few reasons for that. There's a few different ways to invest in real estate. You've got short-term investments, which is doing wholesale deals where you put a property under contract and you sell that contract to someone else. That's called wholesaling. You can do that. There's land flipping, where you put a piece of land under contract and you sell that, which is typically a 6-month deal. Those are to kind of get cash. Then there's property flipping, where you improve the property, you fix the property up, you make it better, and then you sell that. And then you get into long-term investing. Long-term investing is how wealth is created. Yes, you can make money through flipping. Yes, you can make money through land investing. You can do those things, but that money doesn't come time and time and time again. It's not going to be residual. It's not going to be coming in every single month. So if you're looking for cash flow, then you've got to start looking at long-term investments. And regardless of your age, we can look at different long-term investments and things you can do there. But you can do short-term investments anytime, and you can do long-term investments even if you're in your 40s. And I want to show you how long-term investments in your 40s can make you seriously wealthy in just a few years. And this is how it works. The first thing you've got to identify is how much money you're looking for. On a monthly basis, how much money are you looking for? How much money are you going to need? My definition of wealth is how many days you can go without having to work again. How many days can you go without having to work again? The longer that is, the more wealthy you are. But that brings two things into the equation. It brings how much you're spending, okay? And it's how much you are earning. So one of these two things can adjust. If you want to spend a lot of money, you're going to have to earn a lot more money, okay? If that's the case, it's going to take you a lot longer to be wealthy based upon my definition, which is how many days you can go without having to work again. Now, if your spending is lower, then your earnings or your cash flow can be lower, and it will be faster for you to be able to get to that amount than it would be if you want your spending higher. I recommend you come up with a modest budget as to where you want to have on your cash flow, and then you add to that over time. But let's just say that you wanted to make $75,000 a year to replace your current income, okay? And let's say we're not taking into account Social Security or pensions or anything else like that you may have. Let's also say you're not taking into account any 401ks. We're not taking any pension. We're not taking any Social Security, any of those types of Medicaid, whatever. We're not taking any benefits into account. We want to replace $75,000 worth of income. Well, one thing you've got to realize is 10, 20 years from now, you'll probably be spending less than you're spending now. Typically, that's the case. Typically, in your 40s, you've got kids and responsibilities and extra expenses, and there's a lot of stuff that you're buying. But typically, with time, you'll spend less. Not saying that you will, but we're going to plan that you're spending the full $75,000. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn that into a monthly. Okay, monthly. Here we go. So 75,000 divided by 12 gives us monthly $6,250. So if we could make $6,250 a month, we could be financially free forever, okay? Now keep in mind, we're gonna make this money through cash flow. So as we know, rents will go up over time and will more than cover inflation for us. So we don't have to worry necessarily about inflation. So then the question is, well, how many houses do I need in order for me to get to that 6,250? And so it's really quite simple. What I recommend, and I say this quite frequently, is buy a house a year for 10 years and you're going to look like a genius in 20. That's really just what it looks like. And you frankly could buy one every other year and end up with 5 properties. So let's just say that we did every other year. We were even more conservative. So we're actually only buying 5 houses, okay? So this is year 1. You're going to buy a house, okay? This is your 3. You're going to buy a house. This is your 4. You're going to buy a house. This, oh, not 4. This would be 6. Well, let's see, every other year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, buy a house. 8, 9, buy a house. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is your 10, okay? So what's going to happen is this house that you just bought, on average, is going to go up in value. Let me show you. In year 10. Also, your rents on this property are going to go up by year 10. So let's take a look here. In a 10-year period, if you want to use, I mean, we can decide whatever time period whatever time period you want to use. I mean, 2000, the year 2000, over a 10-year period to 2010, year 2000 average was $163,000 in Q2. 2010, the average was $224,000, and that is after the worst real estate correction of all time. So that's probably the perfect one to use. So you're basically saying that over that 10-year period, 163 minus 224, so it went up $61,000. So 61 divided by 163 means that it went up 3.74% a year, okay? And that's kind of the worst of it. If you want to look at the best of it, if you look from here, which is 2009, and we were at 208, and you want to go to 2019, I think it was Q4 2019, 320,000. 208, 320,000. So in that's 2018. In that period of time, minus 320, values went up $112,000. If I divide that 112 by my original purchase price of 208, that's 0.53. Whoops, no. It went up 112. So 112 divided by 208 means we had a 53% increase over a 10-year period, okay? So if I want to divide that by 10, it basically went up 5.5% per year. So let's talk about this. House number 1. Let's say I bought it for $100,000, just so we can keep numbers really simple. House number 1, I bought it for $100,000. Guess what? House number 1 right now is worth somewhere between, let's see, what do we say that is? 3.74% a year is 3.74 times 10 is 37%. So somewhere between 37 and 53% is what that property has gone up. So that $100,000 purchase that I just made is now worth, we'll just call it $140,000. Here, we'll call it year 10, that's fine. That's worth, house 1 is worth $140,000, okay? So I have $40,000 of equity in there. House number 3 is now worth $130,000 because I've owned it for less. House number 2 is $120,000, and you can see as that goes on, okay? So then what you can do is you can take the equity from this house, sell this house, and pay off one of your other houses, so then you own that house free and clear. And then 100% of that cash flow. Doesn't mean you want to, but you have the option to do that. So the other thing that we see that happens over time is rents go up. So your cash flow is going to go up drastically. So again, any point of time, let's just take 2000, rents were like 600, and 2010 rents were like 810. Okay, so what do we say? 602. And in 2010, rents went to 810. So the increase on that was 200 $8 on a 602. So we're seeing a 34% increase in rents over that 10-year period. So the ticket to this is you wait another 10 years. So now that $140,000 house is now worth 180, or well, it's 40% more than that. So if we take 140 times 0.40, it's worth another $56,000. So now that property is worth $196,000. Okay. When we're talking about year 20, but also those rents, let's say the rent was $1,000 a month. The first 10 years, we know rents went up 34%. And then the next 10 years, it went up 34%. So we know that rents have gone up 68%, which means the rents now are $1,680. Even if nothing happened, but your rents went up on these properties by $608 per month, times 5 houses, times 12 months, you would be making $40,000 just on the increased rent. So that's assuming you got nothing out of these properties in rent the entire time. If you held on to it in year 20, you'd be getting $40,000 a month, or $40,000 a year that would be coming in. Now, you should be buying properties that you're having some cash flow. You should be able to do those types of things, but that's kind of a worst case scenario. Now, if you find yourself in a situation like that, the other thing that you can do is you can take this property and you could then pay off 2 of your properties, because remember, these have gotten paid down over time. In 20 years period, that $130,000 is probably $80,000. That $120,000 is probably $70,000. So you could pay off potentially 3 properties with what you could sell one of those properties for, and now you own those free and clear. Now, if you own those free and clear, your rents are $1,680, and you times that by 3, so you'd be $5,040 on 3 of those properties, times 12 is going to put you at $60,000. You've got 2 more properties. We'll say that your income on that is $680 times 2 times 12, and that's $16,000. So that puts you at $76,320, and you own a year, and you own 4 properties. Sorry, you'd own 4 properties. 3 are paid off, and 1 you would have a loan on that, and you'd be looking at $76,000. That's if nothing else happens. So historically speaking, in a 10-year period, you're going to see values go up on average 37 to 53%. So this compounds over time, but you've got to have the long-term perspective. You've got to look at the 10-year, you've got to look at the 20-year plan. Now, you may say, hey, Ryan, I'm 40 years old. I don't want to look 20 years. Well, that would put you at 60. That's not too horrible. But let's say that you wanted to condense this. Well, if you want to condense this, you can do one of 2 things. You can buy a property every year for 10 years. So you end up with 10 properties, and then you wait another 10 years, or you could buy properties every single year for the first 6 years, and then you could wait another 6 or 7 years, and you have options here. I think what stops most people from buying properties is they're scared of maintenance. They're scared of problems. They're scared of things happening. I will challenge you. Go to someone that owns a property. Go to somebody that owns a property. Look at your own property. How much do you spend in repairs? I'm not talking improvements, but how much do you spend in repairs on that property a year? And I'm going to tell you, it's a lot less than you think. So when it comes to this, there's repairs. There's what are called capital improvements. And then we also have vacancy. Repairs are things that have to be done right now. Can't flush the toilet. Hot water, or hot water is a capital improvement, but can't flush the toilet. There's a door that the lock needs to get replaced, whatever the case is. This is standard of living. It needs to happen. A capital improvement is something you're going to put in. It's going to last a long time. So the hot water heater is a good example. This is my beautiful hot water heater. Hot water heater, it should last 10 plus years. You put a hot water heater in, it's going to last 10 plus years. So if you spend, I don't know, $1,500 on that hot water heater, it really only costs you $150 a year, because you're going to have that for 10 years. And that's one of the other things you have. Along with all of this, you're going to have tax benefits. along with this. You're going to have the tenant paying down your loan along with all of this. So what I do is I put 5% of my rent I put towards repairs, 5% of my rent I put towards capital improvements, and 5% of my rent goes towards vacancies. So if I'm renting for $1,000 a month, I say, hey, repairs are going to be $50. Capital improvements are going to be $50. Vacancy is going to be $50. And then what I put is I've got my mortgage, I've got my loan, however much that is. And then I've got taxes and I've got insurance. With this formula, if I can break even in year one with this, it's a good property to buy. And if I'm making money, it's an even better property to buy. Why is that the case? Because I know 10 years from now, these rents are going to go up 64%. Okay, so I'm going to be getting $1,640. I also know 10 years from now, this property that I paid $100,000, or 20 years from now, this property I paid $100,000 is now going to be worth at least $200,000. But I also know 20 years from now, my tenant has paid it down and I probably owe around $50,000. So I've created $150,000 worth of equity in this property, and I'm seeing significant income from this property on a monthly basis. Thinking long-term is how you invest in your 40s and looking for cash flow and what's going to get you out of the rat race.